You've had quite a life. Now, and
It's been varied.
You originally planned to write this book under the title of Double Image.
Yes.
As opposed to Lana, the Legend, the Truth, the Lady. What
Lana,
did double image mean?
Well, I was so right up to not breathing, the point of not breathing, fed up with all of the trash that for so many years had been written about me. Such total untruths and made out of whole cloth and dreadful lies, that it was the time in my life to set things straight. But I had not planned to write the book. We're again going ahead of the point. But about the title, I wanted the title Double Image because there is definitely and has been a public image. Then there's the real me, the image that the people who know and care about me and really are my dear friends. I am not the public Lana Turner, whom I call LT. I am the private Lana.
Are you still Judy Turner?
Oh, no, we lost her. Legally, even. I went to court and had my name changed to Lana.
At about 16 or 17, when you got started in the motion picture business...
16.
At what point did you meet Artie Shaw, who was to become your first husband?
4 days after... Oh, no. When I met him. During the film Dancing Co-Ed. And I hated him.
Did you?
Absolutely detested that man. So did everyone else. Most arrogant, egotistical, and if, Artie, you hear this, good luck, baby, you still are. Well, he is.
And you fell madly in love with him.
No, I did not.
You did not?
No. No, but I've been asked, well, why did you marry him? And upon reflection, after how many moons,
yeah.
I think part of me did it for spite, because I was very angry with the gentleman that I had been going very steady with. And what happened is that Artie, here we go with what was my idea of marriage as a teenager. And our first date, after we'd finished the picture and he'd long gone, and then he came back and we met, and then he called at the opportune moment. For some reason, I don't know, I said, yes, I will go for a drive with you.
Band leaders in those days were very popular.
Oh, and he was one of the most. Yes, but he was still a...
He was still what?
He was still a gentleman I did not like until this particular evening when I agreed to go for a drive and then have dinner. We never did have dinner, but we drove and then we pulled off to the ocean side and we sat talking. He was rambling on and on about he was fed up with the band business and all of this, and I got caught up in that, and I was finished with the picture business. Hell, I hadn't even gotten into it yet, really, you know. But he painted the picture of, all he wanted was the white cottage with a picket fence and the children. And I said, well, really, that's all I've ever wanted. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no, I'm not. He said, you mean if I asked you to marry me right now, you would? And I said, try me. And he said, will you? And I said, yes. Now, that's how simple it was. With that, he put the car in gear. We drove up to his house way up in the mountains. He called the airport, got a private plane. The first time we kissed, and it was like a friend would kiss, was as we were taking off. So there was no big romance involved there at all. But he painted my dream for me. And here's the man who could give it to me. Big deal.
How long did that last?
The third day, I knew it was over. But I tried to make it last for 3 months.
So no picket fence, nothing, just 3 days?
No, he had the little cottage.
Oh, he did?
An awful lot of hell went with it.
Tomorrow, Lana talks about her first marriage to Artie Shaw and the other men in her life, the ones she married and the ones she didn't. Lana Turner has just published her autobiography called Lana, the Lady, the Legend, and the Truth. Today, she talks about the men in her life. I asked her about her first loss, Artie Shaw, which ended in divorce after only a few months.
All he wanted was the white cottage with a picket fence and the children. And I said, well, really, that's all I've ever wanted. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no, I'm not. He said, you mean if I asked you to marry me right now, you would? I said, try me. And he said, will you? And I said, yes. Now, that's how simple it was. With that, he put the car in gear. We drove up to his house way up in the mountains. He called at the airport, got a private plane. The first time we kissed, and it was like a friend would kiss, was as we were taking off. So there was no big romance involved there at all. But he painted my dream for me. And here's the man who could give it to me. Big deal.
How long did that last?
The third day, I knew it was over. But I tried to make it last for 3 months.
So no picket fence, nothing, just 3 days?
No, he had the little cottage.
Oh, he did?
An awful lot of hell went with it.
One of the things that repeats itself over and over again is this sort of level of innocence that you had in those days.
Gullibility.
Was it gullibility?
Vulnerability, gullibility.
You divorced Artie, or divorced, whatever the settlement was there, and then you married Stephen Crane. Mm-hmm. But you also, during that time, found out that Stephen Crane was still married.
After I announced to the world that I was pregnant.
Oh, so you hadn't married him, just announced.
Yes, we were married.
Oh,
please, yes.
I didn't think things had changed that much.
No, that was still in the 40s.
Yes.
You know, it's now that you can go ahead and announce you're pregnant and maybe get married. But
how could he still be married? And
well, he told me that he thought that the paper he had received was the final divorce decree, but it was only, in those days, the interlocutory. Mm-hmm. There was a year to wait. That's what he told me. And so I assumed he was divorced, and we dated almost a month before he asked me. A long time.
It's got along for you at that point.
The other was one date, you see. So that really was a long time. And he was handsome, charming, wonderful sense of humor, a great dancer, a romanticist. And when he asked me to marry him, I said, I'd love to. And he said, fine, we'll elope. And I said, why elope? And he said, because I love you so, let's do it right now. And I did have a few minutes of saying, but I've never had a wedding. I just eloped the first time.
Yes.
Anyway, I was persuaded to elope. So then a couple of months later, when I did announce joyfully that I was with child, it was after that that the blow came that he was not fully divorced, mm-hmm. that he had about 4 or 5 months more to go. So therefore, I had committed bigamy. So I'm pregnant. I could be charged with bigamy. And
when his divorce was final, you did remarry him?
Yes, reluctantly. But I knew that I was
important
out
for Cheryl,
here with child.
Yeah.
And I did not want an illegitimate baby. I mean, he was the father. Mm-hmm. And because of terrible circumstances that happened, and he kept pleading with me, please, it's my baby. And I said, of course it's your baby, but you lied to me once, you did this, you did that. I can't trust you. Then I was getting closer and closer to being so lonely and afraid. Mm-hmm. And he asked again. I said yes.
How long did that marriage last?
Well, until our daughter was 6 months old. But it was going from bad to worse, really.
Because then the guy that really came along and knocked you, or broke your heart, as you say in the book, Tyrone Power.
Oh, yes.
Which was, I don't know, I guess half of America, or probably 3/4 of America felt the same way about him. Well, did you meet him on a picture?
No, socially. That's when everyone used to go to the same parties, the galas and all that. And he was very much married to Annabella. So, of course, naturally, I was fascinated as any other woman. And I thought him so handsome. And we would, good evening, how are you? Fine, what are you doing? What are you working on? That was it. But, of course, I kept my distance because I had never allowed myself to have any interest in a married man.
Yes.
I didn't believe in it. And I didn't believe in other women having their interest in my married man. That, you know, the gate swings both ways. But then finally, they separated, and we met at another party, and he asked if he might call me. He did, and we went to his house and just sat and had a drink and played music and talked till, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I knew I was falling madly in love. In love comes before love, at least with
And
me.
that was a first for you, wasn't it? That
Of
type
that kind
yeah.
of love, yes. And after all, here was one of my peers, meaning in the same kind of business, a star in his own right, and I was now having my stardom being cemented,
Yes.
you know, being really a foundation. But he was such a lovely, beautiful human being inside, and his brain was so wise, so deep. So here again was an entirely different kind of man than I had ever met. And I really then, not only in love, but loved deeply. And we truly talked of marriage, but of course there was always his ex-wife. They were separated by that time for some time. And he assured me that he was trying to get the divorce. But again, time went on, and he later got it, but not while I was...
Not in time, because you became pregnant during that
yes,
period.
And that was a great shock. Now, I wanted to have the baby, and again, fantasizing. But in my mind, I could go off to an island and have it, and come back to L.A. and say, oh, I found this little child, you know, and I adopted it because it was so adorable. Of course, naturally, it would look exactly like Tyrone Power, so how could I explain that? But I had beautiful fantasies until they really set me down and told me, no way.
Yeah, society was not
I would
particularly
ruin his career, I would
that.
ruin my own.
Yes.
And then, too, perhaps fate played a great part, because perhaps I could not have carried his child, as later on I lost 3 other children.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Stillborn, yes.
And after that, you were matched up with one of the most, I guess, macho gentlemen in the motion picture industry at that particular time. There were a couple of them. One was Ricardo, and the other one was Fernando. And you went through a period with Fernando, I think...
Well, Fernando was first.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you went through... I know you had a moment...
Ricardo Montalban and I only did a film together.
A film together.
Fernando Lamas and I had an affair.
Yes. Did you also do a picture with Fernando?
Yes, Merry Widow.
Yes.
That's, you start first with a film, and then you starts an affair.
Then you rehearse the scenes.
At least that's the way it happened with me.
Tell you the thing that surprised me was that there was a certain amount of physical abuse connected with Fernando, and I found that very hard to believe.
He had a Latin temper. Temperament, temper.
Yeah.
That was most volatile, really. But you see, I had not... Oh, I'd seen little flashes of it, but I could kid him out of it, because whatever he blew up about didn't mean anything. But at one particular party, it really became quite vile. And that was a total shock. And many people who sat at the table, and the whole darn room almost heard it, were shocked. And then I said, let's get out of here. And then we went home. And then, of course, the big culmination of it, confrontation, whatever. I don't even describe it in the book because it's much too ugly. But I got it.
That wasn't the last time Lana Turner would experience a violent temper. Tomorrow, she recalls the tragic incident, which was to change her life and that of her daughter, Cheryl. They just root for, and they support.
To stay behind.
Yes, and you're one of them.
And I am blessed for that. But now, getting back to after the happening, I really didn't know if I had a career left. I didn't know if I would be accepted, if I would be even offered a job. So when Ross Hunter, through my agent, said, I want Lana for Imitation of Life. And I was terrified, so frightened. I mean, I had really withdrawn. I was almost paranoid because I was still frightened. It's taken me a number of years even to be able to discuss this.
Is it that still painful to recall it all, dredge it up?
Well, I got a great deal of the heaviness.
Just putting it in print, it would seem to be.
Yes, and having to work it over and over and over again.
Right.
So I am able to a bit easier to discuss it.
Now, you had 2 more marriages. One was to Fred May.
Oh, yes.
And
That was a very good marriage.
Yeah, you said something about Fred May
Who was still my dearest friend.
that he brought something out of you. He literally showed you there was another Lana Turner.
Oh, absolutely, another woman. I became a rancher's wife. I mean,
Real, honest to
I'm
goodness.
talking about mucking out stalls.
Cowgirl.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he had a beautiful, in Chino, near Pomona,
Yes.
beautiful horse ranch. And I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, digging out the hay and then putting the grain in the buckets and driving the trucks and the one truck we had. He also had a breeding farm that was part of his farm. I was even in on the breeding of the stallions with the mares, and that's quite an experience.
But you were happy. What
I was
happened?
holding 2 pails of water. You
Yeah.
have to clean them first and
Yes.
clean them afterwards. And I was backed up against the wall, but here was the clean water and the sponges. I mean, I did everything. And to go to the grocery store in jeans and a little cotton shirt, or to sit up all night with a mare and foal in another stall where we're freezing to death with gloves and parkas and everything, watch. I mean, Lana Turner doing that?
Did Lana like that?
Yes, Lana loved it. Well, it would be like
Well,
going
I
into
understand why you'd
a
love
different
it.
world.
Why aren't you still on the farm?
Well, because we moved away from the farm and I went back to work and became
Oh, I
Lana
see.
Turner.
And back to a period in her life which was to cause her more pain. Tomorrow, Lana talks about her 10-year bout with alcohol and the moment she gave it up to become the woman she is today.
Boy, what a week. The title of her autobiography is Lana, the lady, the legend, and the truth. And all this week, Lana Turner has told much of that truth, from love affairs to tragedy. Today, she's going to talk about her battle with alcohol, which was to last 10 years, and about her road to recovery.
I am very, very lucky and very blessed to be able to sit here and say, I was not an alcoholic. I thought I was becoming one, and everyone else thought I was. But it has been proven now through doctors and through various testing. I was a drinker, but I was a sipper. And I never got high, drunk, or deep depressive, holding the bottle. Mine was worse. It was much more insidious. I kept on one steady level. So never high, never low.
Can you have a drink today?
Yes, if I desire. That's how I know that I am not and was not. But I went cold turkey, and I didn't touch it for 2 years. But my bar was fully stocked, my friends, and they were so sweet they didn't want to ask for a drink. I said, for heaven's sake, don't make me feel like a freak. I'm handling my own problem.
But during that 10 years, it did get in the way of...
Oh, it was starting to affect my liver, my
Yes.
health. I dropped 95 pounds. I was terribly sick. And finally, through my dearest, dearest friend, who has been my friend for over 10 years, Eric Root, he's in the book. He's my hairdresser, and he's also my God-given brother. He finally said, that's it, you are sick. And he took me to a doctor, holistic and herbal. And so after the testing, this marvelous doctor looked at me and he said, all right, Miss Turner, are you willing to give up alcohol in order to get back your health? And I looked at him, and Gary, without exaggeration, it was as though a piercing light came straight down through me. There was not a moment's hesitation. I looked at him and said, "You've got a deal." And we shook hands. And that was the end of the drinking for over 2 years. I had no withdrawals. I didn't... Now, I'm not putting any of these health units...
What do you mean, the programs?
The programs down at all. I was just... I'm saying I was blessed. I did not have to go through it. It's as though God reached down and took a piece of my memory considering that related to liquor just away. I couldn't even remember what liquor tasted like or how I felt. And it was all around me. But I had absolutely not 1 ounce of desire.
No, you're fortunate.
I said I am blessed. But I'm so happy to find out that I can have a glass of wine now or a vodka and orange juice or something. But it can sit there. I don't have to have it or have another. And that's why I know I'm not an alcoholic.
One of the quotes...
And I said, "Oh,
yeah.
You don't know what that
Oh, well,
feels."
I'm sure that makes you feel...
That terror is out
A
of
lot
my
better.
life because I was beginning to doubt myself, you know, living confused.
Did someone diagnose it as such during this period of time? I'm
as
sure
I
they...
said, people thought I was an
right.
alcoholic. But I was drinking. I do not deny that. I'm not proud of it. But there was almost a 10-year period. But I didn't have the blackouts. It was just insidious.
Yeah.
You know,
Were you able to
steady
work
thing.
during that period of time at all?
Yes, but I don't think I did my best work.
Recently...
Remember, I never got drunk.
Yes.
You see, better had I been drunk and fallen on my face, then I might have awakened and said, "Hey, I'm in trouble."
So once you found out you were able to work...
Still with
Still
a few
work.
in me,
Yeah.
but it wasn't good
Yeah.
work. And again, I am not proud of it,
Now, you've
but
had
I'm
a...
being honest.
You've had a quote in there regarding your mother and
Yes.
your daughter Cheryl, and I think it's, I'm paraphrasing, of course, that after it's all said and done, really the 2 most important things in your entire life have been your mom and Cheryl. Now, your mom passed away this last
Yes,
February.
I lost my mother last February 22nd in Honolulu.
All through it, was she someone that you could always turn to? Was she always behind you?
Yes, and even in my most embarrassing and shameful, when I felt deep shame, I could go to my mother. She had such compassion, such deep understanding, yet she was a very reticent woman. Her arms were always there for me to crawl into, and she would comfort me. And she would say, "I understand, I understand." But when I say, "Mama, tell me what to do," she couldn't get it out.
You've had over 2 years now of what you call the new Lana Turner.
Yes, the new woman.
The new woman. Now, you've had a career revitalization. You've done what, Falcon Crest?
Yes.
What else is happening?
Well, the book, of course.
Well, of course, which takes a major
And
portion
that was
of your
going
time.
through my time of non-drinking. If I'd ever been an alcoholic, I would have turned to drink then to get me through it. But I did not. I had no reason to. And I've been so active, and I love it now. I used to hate activity because it would take me out of my shell. I would have to perform. I couldn't, you know, fold in, cave in, whatever I could say. But now this new woman, I'm so alive.
You have a lovely...
Active, and
I
I'm
must say,
so busy.
you look better than...
I look
you've
better
looked
than I
in
did 10 years
Yes,
ago.
That's absolutely true.
Thank you.
And tomorrow, the new Lana Turner will talk about her professional and private life now and the way she would like to be remembered. All this week, Lana Turner has recalled the tragedies and triumphs of her life. She's recorded these memories in her autobiography, Lana, the Lady, the Legend, and the Truth. Recently, she returned to the screen as a guest on television's Falcon Crest, and today we thought we'd begin by sharing a moment of that performance with her.
Power. That's all you love.
Love? What do you know about love?
The one time you had it, you turned it away.
That's not what happened, and you know it. I knew what you were up to. I knew that you were out to take over all of Falcon Crest.
Falcon Crest belongs to those who can control it and make it live. It belongs to me because I'm strong enough to make it produce. The future here belongs to anyone who has the skill and the raw guts to take it away from me. Now, Jason could never do that, and neither could you. That's why you ran away.
The only reason I took Chase away was to keep you from ruining his life.
Now, why would I do that?
You don't understand, do you? I don't like you, Angela. I don't like anything about you. Now, maybe you've got everybody else believing that Jason got drunk and drove his truck off the road, but I don't accept that.
That's exactly what happened.
Well, Emma seems to think that Jason died more than once.
Well, it's highly improbable, isn't it?
The only thing I really care about is that my son doesn't become a victim of some accident himself.
Gee, yeah. Lots of fire in those eyes, Miss Turner.
Oh, yes, our confrontation scene. And I would love to share this with you. I know you have very little time.
Plenty of time for you.
But we had worked all day long doing the scenes coming up to this big confrontation scene. Now, I had been away from TV since The Survivors That Did Not Survive.
Yes.
Very well. They shot that at 10 o'clock at night. Now, Miss Wyman and I were exhausted. But we got off in a corner and we pounded away at each other just to get the lines right without emotion. And finally she said, okay, that's it. And I said, what do you mean that's it? But okay, boss lady, you know, fine, we'll go do it. Now, we had stood giving for the lights and the mics and all that. But the crew had never heard the scene. So we went out and the director said action. And we started. And it kept building and building. And we're still glaring at each other. And the crew broke out in applause. Because they were so stunned. You know, if you hear things over and over again, anybody becomes, oh, I know that line.
Right,
you know,
right.
they keep painting the ceiling or the floor or whatever. But that, Miss Wyman was quite amazed, and, well, from her own crew to get applause.
Quite a compliment.
For both of us. It truly was. And I've been having such fun with this junk that I've been reading about our famous feud.
Oh.
Oh, Miss Wyman
I missed
and I
that.
are having a feud. Yes, indeed. You
that
don't
one of
read those yellow, raggy, trashy
The ones that are before
tabloids?
you check out in the supermarket?
Well, I never go to a supermarket these days, you see. My friends call and tell me about it.
Excuse me.
In my ranching days, I did, remember? Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
But I love reading about this feud, and we are having a feud. Very, very definitely. On film.
Oh, on film?
Because I
Well, so
happen
they're not
to
far
like
wrong.
Miss Wyman.
Yes.
I've admired her as an artist, an actress. But it just kills me, the junk they're writing.
You mentioned a certain amount of displeasure on Cheryl's part about the book. Has she...
No, not
Is that lessened?
displeasure. No,
Just, she asked you why. That was all?
it was over a year before I told my daughter that I was even writing a book.
Yes.
Because I didn't know how to approach her with it. I mean, this child that became a young woman has had to live with all this,
Yes.
you know, written material anyway. But now, to tell her I am writing the truth, I did not know how to approach my own daughter.
What was her reaction?
Well, first my mother's was, why?
Yes.
I said, because, Mother, I can't live any longer with all of those lies. I'm a different person now. I can face, I can dig into the past. It's going to hurt like hell, but I'm going to get the truth out. She said, I'll be behind you. Yet she wouldn't answer many questions for me, but she was there behind me. But when I finally got up the nerve enough, courage enough, really, to tell my daughter, she said, interesting you tell me now, Mother. I had heard that you were. So my wind started going out of my sails with that, and I said, well, what are your feelings? She said, well, if you feel you must, then you must. I said, will it make you unhappy? She said, I can't tell that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went ahead with the book. Then when I finally gave it to her to read, and of course in Honolulu, I said, have you read it yet? You know,
Is that where she's living, in Honolulu?
Oh, yes, she's lived there for over 3 years now. And a businesswoman doing beautifully in real estate. And every morning she would call to wake me, and I'd say, have you read it yet? Mother, I've been so busy. Okay, story short, she finally called. She said, all right, Mother, I've finished it. Now I'm on the rack, I feel. I said, well, what do you think? She said, it's very well written. I said, and? She said, well, there's so much in there I didn't know.
Oh.
I said, well, baby, of course you didn't know I'm going to come tell you those things.
That's right.
So it was another facet of her and our togetherness, because we've been so close, you know, since she has been leading her private life. And now, of course, she's all I have left. But I'm so blessed that I have her. And I know that Mother's watching over us both.
How would you, I mean, this certainly does not portend things to come, but how would you like to be remembered? I don't know if you're kidding about writing a second book, but as a
Oh, I
result
was
of this,
kidding, yes, to put in what wasn't there.
I mean, how would you like people to walk away from this book, having read it? What would you want them to feel about you, to know about you?
Well, I wish I could be glib about that, Gary. I should have had a pat answer. I'm sorry, I don't. I didn't rehearse any of this.
That's what makes it so much fun.
I would like them to know somewhere in their hearts that a woman lived, loved, and came through a great deal of happiness, sorrow, but ended up on her feet with God guiding her.
Well, you certainly ended up on your feet, and we're thrilled to have had you here all this week. Miss Lana Turner.